Welcome everyone to the next session of the iMonitor training webinar Module 1. We will talk about Module 1.2, which is specifically about how to assess corruption risks in public procurement using the opentender.eu platform. This module directly builds on the previous module. Basically, what we learned conceptually in the module 1.1, we put into use in module 1.2, and then both of these modules will feed into subsequent monitoring activities and the corresponding training modules in the iMonitor package. So what I will start with is a very quick introduction to what opentender is about, and specifically which indicators, which data sets we have on the website. So opentender is a transparency and watchdog portal designed for Europe, so that's the EU plus quite a few additional countries. Altogether, we have 37 jurisdictions, and the term jurisdictions refers to countries and entities, and the most notable entities, European Commission bodies. So there is a separate site for the contracts of the European Commission, which location-wise are scattered around in Europe, but in terms of regulations and bureaucratic organization, they are distinct from the countries they are sitting in. The data is coming from national public procurement portals, as well as TED, which stands for Tenders Electronic Daily, and these data sets have been collected following a standard data collection pattern algorithms, and then the data standard is comparable across countries, indicators as well. So you can really look across many countries, you can look across many years within the same country. Now, what's the objective of opentender with this data beyond merely making it more accessible and more transparent? The goal of opentender is to help various stakeholders, civil monitors, governments, suppliers, to understand and flexibly work with and analyze public procurement data. And that should hopefully contribute to higher integrity and higher transparency. The objective is multiple. So we have different analytical needs, analytical foci. Someone might analyze particular markets, organizations zooming in on particular contracts. I will give a few examples of these in a second. So what can we do on opentender? What can users do on opentender? Elementary descriptive analytics and visualizations are available, such as the number of contracts of a particular buyer over time, over the years. Also, there are more advanced analytics based on performance indicators, so we can see the risk profile of different entities, like the suppliers, risk factors and factors which are not risky. Then there are benchmarking functions, so we can compare a particular organization against others, so you can follow an organization over time and see if there is a particular break in its performance risk or integrity performance. It's also possible to search for entities, and then the database can be downloaded, either a particular selection. So you say, I'm interested in this buyer in this region, and download the contracts of that entity with all the details, or you can download the full database, give me the full, say, Lithuanian public procurement database and open them. Now, the first question is, what are the indicators? And it's very important that the indicators in opentender are integrity indicators, integrity risks. So here, higher values mean higher integrity, lower values mean lower integrity. And for us, for opentender, integrity is the opposite of corruption. So when you have high integrity, corruption is low. Where you have low integrity, corruption is high. Now, the indicators one sees here and one can see on opentender very much follow from module 1.1. So the schemes, the data, the approximation logic, the estimation logic really follow from that. So the first indicator, unsurprisingly, is single bidder contract. So if there was more than one bid received, 2, 3, 4, 5, the integrity indicator is 100, integrity is high. If there was only one bid received, the integrity indicator value is 0, so integrity is low, corruption risk correspondingly is high. We have call for tenders publication. This is again something you could see in the previous module. This is a tender level, if the tender was advertised or not. We can look at procedure types, whether it was sole sourcing or direct award versus open advertisement. Here we have 3 categories. Open procedure is not a red flag, it's high integrity. There are some procedure types which allow for some competition, but still make it easier to limit competition. So the value there is medium, 50, and then 0 is non-open procedure types of direct award or negotiated procedure without prior publication. So these are the kind of procedures which we consider as low integrity. This is again a tender level indicator. Advertisement period line, this is something we discussed quite a bit in the previous module. Here, very short advertisement periods. This is something which is low integrity. Long advertisement periods tend to be that tend to be higher integrity. And then there is decision period when the decision is very snap. So it doesn't seem to be the case that the buyer genuinely considered, compared different bids, just awarded the contract to the connected bidder. Furthermore, there is supplier registration in tax haven. This again is something we have seen. So if the supplier is not registered in a tax haven, the value is 100. The supplier is registered in a tax haven, the value is 0, so that's low integrity. Benford's law is something which we haven't discussed. That's basically an indicator signaling that the price values, the numbers used for putting together the price, they have been manipulated, so rather than genuinely built as a bottom-up pricing, so looking at the cost of individual items and then adding them up, then basically if corruption happens, then there's just a large number rounded up, then basically this is a risk factor. So if the tender price is very likely to be manipulated, integrity is low. If tender price follows a natural distribution of numbers of digits, then tender price is less likely to be manipulated. The integrity value is 100. Suppliers share, so the tenders winning suppliers share in the buyer's spending. Then here we have a concentration. So if the same company is winning over and over again from the same buyer, then this is a risk factor. So 0 is when the winner's share is 100%. So all procurement spending from a particular buyer goes to one supplier. And then integrity is 100 when this winner share is close to 0. So it's a minor player on the local market. And then distinct markets is the final indicator. It's basically an unusual combination of different markets for a particular supplier. Large companies naturally are present on different markets. That's not a problem. But smaller companies might be shell companies. They win many different contracts. One is medical, the one is construction, the third one is school meals, and they just subcontract the tenders and basically the company is not genuinely doing any procurement activity, production activity. So here, if the supplier is not present in a large number of different markets, that's 100, high integrity. If the supplier is present in a suspiciously large number of different markets, then the distinct markets integrity is low. So open tender allows you to look at each of these separately as well as together. So we will show now 4 different ways of using the open tender, using these indicators and this data for, at the end of the day, the same goal, and the same goal is to identify low integrity or high corruption risk entities and organizations and contracts, and then explore their activities, their risk profile, their business partners, their details, right? So the first one is about how do you investigate potential wrongdoing of a known public organization, a buyer. So you read about that this buyer is potentially doing something inappropriate, you know, say the media reported, you want to gather more intelligence about that. The second aspect is very similar. You know about a particular supplier, and then you want to investigate it further. Again, you know what you're looking for, and your goal is to go there quickly and build up an intelligence picture. Number three is you don't have a single buyer or supplier in mind, but you have a market, say a school meal market or car sales, car dealership market, a particular country, and basically you want to see who are the riskiest suppliers on this market, which are the risky tenders. And then finally, maybe you zoom in a particular region or city and you want to risk rank buyers there. And then in any of these four, you basically zoom in or filter into the portion of the data which is of relevance to you, and then you build up a picture, you branch out from there. So what we do, we go together to the opentender.eu page and then explore each of these concrete cases. I stop sharing my slides now, and I move over to sharing my browser. So opentender.eu landing page, I think that's what we will start with. Hopefully everyone can see it now. Okay, so what we have now is the landing page of opentender.eu. You can look at individual countries through the map, and you can see how many contracts there are, or you can also click on them from the list. We will start by Spain, where we demonstrate use case 1, so investigating potential wrongdoing of a buyer. What I want to emphasize here too, that any of these cases are merely demonstrative. We don't make any claim of anyone being, high or low integrity necessarily. These are cases which have been selected from the data based on objective data without any bias or value judgments. So really, these are demonstrating analytical activities people can perform. So let me click on Spain. And if we know what we are looking for, then the best is to go to the search page. And we start by a buyer, so click on the buyer subpage. Okay, so what can we do here? If we know the name, then we can type the name of the entity directly, buyer name up here. We can also add and remove different search filters. I already added the ones which we care about, like Catalonia is already highlighted here in the geographical region, but of course, this could be unticked and then another region selected. So if I type TGSS is a Social Security Administration. It's a short acronym for that. And then I can select Girona Social Security Administration specifically, search for it, it brings it up already. I set the name and the buyer type, buyer contract count, add more columns. We also included here the integrity indicator composite score. So that's where all the different red flags are brought together. Individual red flags can also be added to this table. Now, if you want to explore the organization specifically, then we have to click on the profile link. This gets us to the Social Security Organization of Girona. This organization appears with different numbers. Maybe it has a different office, or some contracts included the tax number, some didn't. So we click at these variants of the name, and basically it will, the portal will bring it together and combine the data and the contracts data for the entity which appear on different buyer names. So what can we see here? We can have an overview of the transparency. Data is relatively good quality, thanks God. And also we can see the overall integrity indicator score of this organization, and then different tenders over time and sectors, tender numbers and volume. We can look at the business partners, we can have a benchmarking function, and the underlying data, the individual tenders. Now, let's see what these different elements tell us. So the average integrity indicator score, this sort of pie chart, gives us a sense of which aspect, so which integrity dimension is more or less risky. Okay, so suppliers' contract share is green, it's 96, it's very high integrity, so there doesn't seem to be a single company dominating all contracting activity of this entity. But then if you look at the bidder numbers, so single bidding indicator, we have value 44, so it means 44% of contracts have received more than one bid, and the rest, 66% received single bidding, so only one bid. So that's very high. We can also look at procedure type. So most contracts have been non-open, okay? That also corresponds to most tenders and most contracts have been awarded without a call for tender being published. So 28% has been published, the rest, so 72 has not been published. So it already looks like we have a sense of where risks might lie, where integrity problems might lie. We see the entity's number of tenders over time, the volume of spending. We can also see the tenders numbers and tender volume by by sector. You can repair and maintenance services is the highest tender number. Then we have some health and social work services, office and computing, petroleum products, construction work. So as a general purpose public administration organization, spending is pretty diverse, right? So different markets, different entities. So we can look at, for example, some of the high-risk contracts, because at the end of the day, iMonitor is about identifying potential wrongdoing, first using data and then in-depth monitoring. So let's try to see where risks might lie for this entity. So I zoom and go down the tenders. There are 397 tenders for this entity. You can add a couple of columns. So we have the integrity indicator, we have the final price, tender name, and the name of the supplier for very important information about an entity. So these are the columns we have. Let's click on final price. So sort tenders by contract value. Okay, so the largest tenders are here, and then we go down one by one. So we have tender name and then supplier, 130,000 euro. The integrity indicator is closer to the yellow and the green color, so that means this particular tender didn't have much to be worried about. Now, if you go down, you can have, for example, a car contract. Those colleagues who speak Spanish can or Catalan can definitely help out here, but basically transport services from a car company, right? We can also look at some others. I can add more records here to this table. So you can see that contract value decreases and some of the integrity indicators will be higher or lower. There is, again, the same name, the car company with a very low integrity, but very high value contract. So if I click on the integrity indicator, little arrow, then it tells us that the overall integrity is low because bidder number is low, so it's single bidding. Advertisement period was relatively short, and then we have problems with the price distribution, so Benford's law, and also this particular supplier's contract share is very high, so integrity is low here. Let me close this. So basically, this is where the user can look for particular contracts in detail. Again, there is quite a bit of variation in the different markets. The car, again, shows up now with a 62,000. And then I think there is one cleaning contract for 60,000 or nearly 60,000 euros, which has a particularly low integrity score. Then we have, the decision period was short, there was no call for tender, procedure type was closed, so on and so forth. So if you say, let's think about a particular contract which has very low integrity, I could pick this one. Okay, so I can click on this contract and tender, and it gets me to the profile picture of a particular contract. This is a contract. Let me look at the timing. This is publications. This is from 2012, so that's pretty old, but it's relatively high value. And if I look at the risk profile, I have procedure type, Benford's law, call for tenders, and decision period length, which are low integrity, and a couple of others which couldn't be calculated, and advertisement period, which could be calculated, but it's high integrity. So if I click on the benchmarking function, that's very important. I can click on indicators in terms of integrity indicators, and having in the integrity indicators in the same sector, so cleaning services, you see that this contract performs very poorly, right? So its integrity score is very low, 30, right? And then a large number of tenders, we have 399 tenders in Spain, which have almost perfect, like really no risk whatsoever. But even having here kind of light green, large number of tenders have done this much better. So what does it mean? We have a low integrity and evidence that a lot of others in the same sector could do well. So this gives you a sense that, okay, it is possible to procure cleaning services with competition, with appropriate number of bidders, open procedure type, advertisement, so on and so on. Okay, so this would be one contract which would be worth looking into further detail. But let me go back to the Girona TGSS, so the Social Security Administration. And once again, let me look at the higher value contracts. And you remember, I found this car company, Auto Gestillo SL, which had moderate integrity. If I add a few records, it showed up again. 100,000 euro this time. Now then the integrity score is even lower. And if I scroll down, I have again 62,000 integrity, relatively weak. So it looks like this supplier might be worthy of our attention. So this time I'm not clicking on the tender title, but I'm clicking on the supplier. Again, it trades on different names. So let me combine them. So what's happening with this bidder? They typically win single bidding. Okay, so 77% was single bidding, 33% was multiple bidding, and it typically is very highly dependent on a single buyer. So this is what it looks like. This supplier has won a contract in 2015, 17, and 18. And basically, almost all these contracts are from the TGSS Girona. And then here, you can look at benchmarking. So again, are there others who could do better in the same sector? So I click on integrity indicators, limit to the same sector, and you see the blue bar is the Auto Gestio SL. It's nearly always below the reference group. So other companies are selling cars to the government. There is no data for some years, right? So this company was not active for particular years. And mostly when it was active, it was under the benchmark group. You can play around by bidder number, call for tenders, procedure types, and the composite integrity indicator. So what do we see here? All the four contracts linked to this company. I can add the composite integrity score. Let me close. Let me add also the timing, creation date, for example. So you could see, oh, sorry, not creation date, but award decision or bid deadline. And basically you'd see these are 18, 13, 17, and 15. And you see these are all substantial amounts, 100,000, 60,000, 120. And integrity is most of the times very low. Bidder number is, single bidding, or the information is even missing. Okay, so how does this leave us? If you think this is worthy of attention, and maybe next time you will find a company which has more recent contracts, then you can move on to module 2.1 in iMonitor, and you can start creating a report on this company, create a report on a particular contract of this company. Okay, so let me move on to another case. This time we are moving to a different company. So this will be Romania, and we are looking at use case 2. And this is when we know a particular supplier which we want to investigate. Again, say you received a tip or read about the supplier in media. This will be info word, so you can just basically type up info world company. Okay, continue. You search, you find the company, you see the overall integrity indicator is 55, so it's yellowish. You will see it's very bad. And we have 8 contracts for this company. This company trades on very many different name variants, so you can select all, so combine them. Transparency is moderate here, and then in particular, integrity is quite worrying. It has a pattern of no competition whatsoever. It's always single bidding, typically not advertised, so 50% of the times not advertised, and often procedure type is of moderate integrity. Okay, the buyer's region, various regions around the country. You can see that the volume of spending varies quite a bit, very active in the early 2000s, then gets very active with high values, 8 million, 4 million, so on and so forth in the early 2020s. It's mainly IT. So the sector is mainly IT services, and the buyers are typically hospitals. So this company sells IT services and equipment for various, this is, I think, Timișoara, so on and so forth. So basically, hospitals buying services from this info world SRL. Okay, and then you can again benchmark using the integrity indicator in the sector, and you can see that when it wins big time, it's considerably, well, not dramatically, but considerably under the other companies in the sector, especially in the 2010s, it was quite a bit below. And again, you can do the same thing as we did with the Spanish buyer. You can add columns such as integrity indicator for the particular tenders. It's quite a bit now, and then you can basically investigate each of these tenders. You can integrity rank them. So you can see the low integrity contracts first. Again, you can have more of the same and then go down one by one, and you see what was happening in each of these contracts, and you can pick the one which you think is of high risk. Let me move on quickly to use case 3. Then we don't know what a particular organization we are looking for, right? So maybe you think about a sector or a market which is risky, and you want to zoom into that. So how do we do that? Let me go back to opentender home again. And this time we do Lithuanian example. I go to Lithuania, and this time I start from market analysis. Okay, we have to find the market first, and then we can see the patterns there. Market analysis tab. And let's say we are interested in waste collection. This is a thing which is surprisingly corrupt in many countries. So you have to find the right market identifier, and then it's hierarchical. So you have to click a couple of times into market, sub-market, sub-sub-market, so on and so forth. So refuse collection services reside within the sewage, refuse, and cleaning services market. I just clicked on it. Then we have cleaning and sanitation, refuse and waste related services, and then cleaning and sanitation services. So basically I'll click on one of these markets, and this is CPV 905. So this is zooming further into an refuse collection services. This is what we were looking for. 105,905,11. So this is the CPV code, common procurement vocabulary. You can also look for it on the web. It's easy to find the market names and then the market IDs if you have the CPV information. Okay, so what do we have? Across the country, we have basically a steady flow of contracts. In some years, quite high values, you know, tens of millions, but typically around 10 million or 5 million. We can also look at who are the different suppliers and buyers in the market. Let's see who are the suppliers, okay? Let's look at by volume. So who are the biggest winners on this market? UAB, Econovus, and then so on and so forth. So basically, you can see the big players on the market, and you can just start exploring every one of them. I just pick one. Kauno Svara, which is a company winning close to 9 million euros in this period. Click on it. Again, trades on different addresses and different text numbers. Combine its information. And then what we see, it's often competing, right? So the bidder number integrity is 71. So that means 29% of the tenders, it was single bidding, 71, there were competition. But then advertisement period was often short, procedure type was not always open. So you can see the activities, again, as a pattern, especially active in the last few years. And then you can see who are the particular buyers for this supplier. And again, as you know this by now, basically you can look at the individual contracts, you can do some benchmarking. Okay. Final example. Let's stay with Lithuania, and we go to search again. And this time we can search for a particular buyer in Vilnius. I clear the name, right? So there is no name screened here, but you can have, say, integrity score 65, so 0 to 65. So basically a relatively low part of the ranking. Total contracts count, let's exclude small buyers, and then let's add the city, Vilnius, it could be Kaunas, you know, whatever Lithuanian city you're interested in. So we have now 215 buyers, which have at least 10 contracts. The integrity score, the average organization integrity score is between 0 and 75. And those which are residing in Vilnius, again, you can add the name, buyer type. Maybe it's not that interesting, and keep it. We can have integrity composite score, and we can have the buyer total count. Okay, so we can look at basically any entity of interest, or we can, further shrink your search parameters to zoom into even lower integrity score, and you can now risk rank your organization. So you can have a number of organizations here which have a lot of contracts and overall a very low integrity indicator score, right? So 31, 32, this is really on the lower end of the 0 to 100 scale. So there is one, like this second one, which has some moderate risk. This is a national authority. This is transport ministries unit, but again, someone of you speaking Lithuanian will confirm this. So you can click on this, moderate risk, relatively large. Bidder number is almost always 1. Okay, so that's quite a thing. 27% there is multiple bidders, the other 73% there is only 1 bidder. Pretty bad, but procedure types are nominally open. Most spending is on construction work. Okay, it's not surprising. Suppliers typically come from Vilnius, so that's great. And then you can basically look at the highest value contracts or lowest integrity contracts. Here you go, you already have one, 200,000 euros, and then integrity score is pretty low. Again, you can explore them further, look at suppliers, look at particular tenders, so on and so forth. That was it for particular use cases. They are interchangeable. You can move between them. You can add further use cases, but hopefully these couple of journeys could demonstrate how you can enter, filter, and explore integrity risks with the help of opentender.eu. Thank you very much.